We are all familiar with the voice inside our heads. It offers advice, forms judgments, and steers our decisions. But what if I told you that the voice you hear, this internal dialogue, may not always be a reflection of your true self? What if the thoughts and judgments you attribute to your identity are not wholly your own? To understand the voice in our heads, we must first consider its origins from a psychological perspective. Cognitive science posits that our inner voice, often referred to as the narrative self, plays a crucial role in how we interpret our experiences, regulate emotions, and make decisions. This internal monologue is often perceived as an integral part of our identity, guiding us in moments of uncertainty. However, the question arises, is this voice a faithful representation of our true desires and beliefs, or is it shaped by external influences? Psychological research suggests that the inner voice may not always be self-authored. It is often a product of our socialization, past experiences, and even unconscious desires. This conflict can be understood through the lens of cognitive dissonance theory, which suggests that when our actions or beliefs contradict each other, we experience psychological tension. This tension manifests through our inner dialogue, often producing conflicting thoughts that create internal discord, further complicating our ability to discern which voice is truly our own. To deepen our understanding, let us turn to philosophy. René Descartes, one of the most influential figures in the development of modern philosophy, famously declared, "Cogito ergo sum," or "I think, therefore I am." Descartes equated thinking with existence, suggesting that the act of thought is the foundation of selfhood. Yet Descartes' model of the self as a purely rational thinking being does not account for the complexities of the internal voice. If thought is central to our identity, then why do we hear conflicting voices, voices that do not always align with our rational, conscious mind? These voices may be shaped by subconscious forces, by societal expectations, or by emotional responses that lie outside of conscious control. Friedrich Nietzsche, in his critique of traditional metaphysics, argued that the self is not a singular, fixed entity, but rather a dynamic construct, shaped continuously by societal forces and the will to power. From this perspective, the inner voice is not a singular autonomous self, but a reflection of external power dynamics and cultural influences.
Shifting from philosophy to law, the role of the inner voice in moral and legal responsibility deserves our attention. In legal contexts, particularly criminal law, the concept of diminished capacity is recognized. This principle acknowledges that an individual's mental state, particularly when influenced by uncontrollable thoughts or voices, can impair their ability to understand or control their actions. When an individual claims to have been compelled by an internal voice to commit a crime, this may be considered as part of a defense strategy. The argument is that the person was not fully responsible for their actions due to an impaired or distorted sense of self, shaped by forces beyond their control. This raises significant ethical and legal questions. If the voice inside our heads is not always our own, to what extent are we responsible for the actions it compels? How should the law address situations where the internal voice is not a reflection of the true self, but rather a manifestation of external influences or psychological conditions? Another question worth exploring is the spiritual dimension of the inner voice. Many religious traditions and spiritual practices have long suggested that the voice inside our heads may not be merely a product of the mind, but may instead represent communication from a higher power. In Christianity, for instance, individuals may describe a sense of hearing God's voice guiding their decisions, providing comfort in times of crisis, or offering moral direction. This experience is often described as a profound almost ineffable presence that transcends ordinary thought, offering wisdom or clarity in moments of doubt. Philosophers like William James, a key figure in the development of pragmatism and religious experience, suggested that the sense of divine presence or spiritual communication is real insofar as it influences the individual's life positively. In conclusion, the voice in your head is not always a reflection of your authentic self. It is a complex product of both internal and external influences. While it can serve as a tool for introspection and decision-making, it is essential to recognize that this voice may not always represent your true desires or values.